I want to talk about the pressure of it in terms of like that side of things, where Arsenal, that was as bad as we've seen them play for a while, and it was in that second half where the pressure starts ramping up more. Like, that's when the players are looking and they're thinking, right, 45 minutes to win a trophy. We're playing against a Manchester City team that have got the better of us however many times. And it was another individual error that made a mistake. Arsenal now, as this season is going over and they're getting closer, are making more and more individual errors. I've got a stat here, right? Between August and December, there was one error in 28 matches that led to a goal in an Arsenal game. But since January, they have made 7 individual errors in 22 games that have led to goals. So Arsenal's players are making sloppy, silly mistakes. And it feels to me, as someone who's been watching Arsenal my whole life, so familiar. It feels like the teams that couldn't do it, that didn't have the mental edge, that they felt fragile. And in those moments, it's so familiar. And I worry that there could be a spiral here.
I feel like we're in a counselling session for you. You're in a safe space.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of those mistakes do come with the pressure of the situation. No, I don't think it's a surprise that the dates you give are when crunch time comes. Yeah. But also I look at fatigue and the element of that, and rotation and playing players. And it was a point Charlie made in his piece in today's paper about, Arteta needing to kind of not go away from what's got them in terms of rotating the players, keeping the players fresh. And I do think some of those mistakes come from, look back to the one at Zubimendi against Manchester United. Again, we talk about players playing lots of minutes. Their mistakes come from people who are playing a lot. And we talk about this big squad, £250 million spent. This is when you should see the value of it, when it's absolute crunch time and you're fighting in 3 competitions. So I think part of that is also an element of mental fatigue, but physical fatigue, and I think that's something Arteta needs to get right over the next period.
And Zubimendi and Rice are the 2 worries, aren't they? Jurriën Timber was a worry because of the amount he's played, and he having been, I think, Arsenal's best player in the first half of the season, he's dropped off, carrying injury, is withdrawn from the Dutch squad. Ebere Eze obviously hasn't been played that much. It's a shame that now he's just starting to play well. He's going to be out for at least 2 weeks. So he's not going to play against Southampton. He's a huge doubt for the away game at Sporting Lisbon, probably Bournemouth as well. So, they've been unlucky with some of the injuries. Some of them have been sort of brought upon themselves, or really by Arteta, by overplaying. So he's definitely improved the rotating, hasn't he? But not totally got it right. Definitely needs Norgard. Let's hope, and what we mustn't forget, of course, you've got Norgard, Calafiori, and Victor Gyökeres. They'll obviously be disappointed by that final defeat yesterday, but they're about to have arguably the biggest week of their careers, because they're all involved in World Cup playoffs. And in 10 days' time, Mikel Arteta could have 3 players who are literally right up there with their confidence on an absolute high, or 3 players who are utterly devastated. So that will have an impact in his team selection. He'll obviously be hoping that Gyökeres is obviously Sweden incredibly lucky to be in the World Cup playoff for how rubbish they were, in the qualifiers. But Gyökeres could be 10 feet tall, having fired Sweden into the World Cup, which would help Arsenal. It really would.
Arteta speaks a lot about that kind of. I remember with Moreno earlier this season where he had a great game for Spain and scored a few goals, and he literally played him at the weekend. He was basically different team, but he's just flying at the moment, and emotionally feels great. And that's prime example of Gyökeres goes away, fires Sweden to the World Cup. He'll be saying, "Start me at Southampton. I'm on fire."
Right, it's been a bit doom and gloom.
That was me bringing positivity.
No, I liked it, but what I want to talk about is the fact that there are still 3 tournaments that Arsenal are favourites to win. I mean, I know they're still favourites for the Premier League. They're favourites for the Champions League. Obviously, Manchester City and Liverpool face each other in the League Cup, and they'll eventually have to face one of those if they get past Southampton and go beyond that. But they're still on for an incredible season.
Yeah, look, if you ask Arteta, it's an obvious thing to say. If you ask Arteta at the start of the season, any Arsenal fan at the start of the season, you're going to get to March, you're going to get to the Carabao Cup final, play a bit crap, be in the quarterfinals of the Champions League, quarterfinals of the FA Cup, way ahead of Manchester City.
Yeah.
Bearing in mind the disappointment in the previous seasons, I'm pretty sure every Arsenal fan would settle for that, wouldn't they?
I'd
They
have
really
snapped
would.
your hand off.
Of course they would.
Yeah, absolutely.
And at the moment, you're looking at the Champions League. You know, are they going to win the Premier League and the Champions League? Probably not, but they've got a chance. Yeah. It's incredibly exciting. They're in a great position still. So let's hope they can park that defeat yesterday and move on. And it still could be, one of the best seasons in the club's history.
That's probably why the break is good, because you go away as an Arsenal fan, an Arsenal player, and you get a bit of perspective, and you come back after 10 days away and you think, well, actually, we're all gone for the treble here. You got a chance to go and do something absolutely amazing and just taking out that disappointment. Whereas if you'd gone straight into Wednesday night, Southampton, FA Cup, you almost lose that chance to get a bit of perspective. Whereas now I think you can take a step back and think, okay, yeah, disappointing defeat, played terribly, but there's still so much to go and play for. And for those players, what are 6 weeks to go and attack?
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think you both just said that Arsenal winning the treble, right? That's exactly what you both just said.
You can clip it up. Put it on
Nothing matters. The Carabao Cup's a Mickey Mouse trophy.
I didn't say that.